Greetings. Hello, hello, hello. Here we are for Wealth Wednesday at 7 p.m. So I just want to get started by first saying thank you guys for everyone who has joined through the last couple weeks. I am starting to gain momentum and become more comfortable talking about these subjects on live. I definitely want you guys to engage when you can on the topics, as well as if a question comes to mind, make sure you drop it in the DM or send me a text or email so that I can add it to the next one that I do, okay? So today, like I said, is Wealth Wednesday. So the topic is going to be the habits that build wealth. We talked over the last couple weeks, both on Monday during the insurance live, as well as these Wednesdays with financial literacy, just discussing things that we should do and consider while we're trying to gain wealth and create generational wealth for our families. So to begin with, most wealth isn't built in a day, right? So we've talked about that. It's built through daily decisions. And of course, we talked about credit and we talked about debt. We didn't talk really about savings or the things that help us maintain and control the money that we do have coming in. So the first discussion point would be that small habits matter. Saving consistently. So the first thing I would say is to actually write down a complete budget. That complete budget is not only going to calculate the regular expenses that you get, which you might put an average for your utility, the actual amount for your rent, your car payment, right? But it's also going to take into consideration any type of extracurricular activities that you pay for yourself or for your kids, including self-care. It's going to include eating out however many times of the week that you eat out. Any additional spending, we all have our thing that we spend our money on, but it's going to keep track of everything. Also, what I would advise putting on a budget is anything that has been financed, right? So if you have a house or a car note or some type of loan for student loan, any of those things that will have an interest rate, as well as how much you potentially owe left if you paid those payments out, right? Because to begin with those small habits and tracking things consistently, you want to make sure that you have written down everything, because the more accurate you are with your expenses, the best you'll be able to adjust the cost of those expenses in different areas and potentially save money and see where your money is going. So we have to track that spending, right? So a lot of times we just, for random things, I'm going to stop by and get some coffee this morning, maybe at McDonald's or maybe at Starbucks, but wherever you get the coffee from, a lot of times we're not keeping all those small receipts, right? And most people don't carry a check balance book anymore, right? A checkbook in your balance sheet anymore. So this is in replacement of that, is that you need to make sure that you're tracking your expenses, whether that be receipts online in your account, on an Excel spreadsheet. I would advise creating or finding a budget that will capture those things. And also I can help provide that if you sit down and we discuss, your budget and potentially how to properly protect your home or your assets or your living wages. All right. So paying yourself first. We have to, number one, pay our bills, but we also have to be able to save. And if you work hard, right, sometimes you're like, I worked hard, I should be able to, buy this food out or go out or take this vacation. But make sure that you're doing it according to an amount that you are able to take out, a certain percentage of your income. You should pay that first. And that should go in that account to stay, right? Then you pay the bills. Then you pay the additional expenses or whatever that you have. But you do want to pay yourself first, because as you're building generational wealth and you need to purchase things that help with that, to have that separate and to be happening on a regular basis is much more beneficial. So the difference between rich and wealthy, income versus assets. So we've discussed before, and we all know that you can have a large salary and still live paycheck to paycheck, right? You can have a large income and own nothing. So when you have cash, cash is liquid. It just goes, you spend it, especially if you're not consistently tracking your expenses and making sure that you're paying yourself first, and putting that amount in savings and things of that nature. So now you just have this income that's flowing, that's not controlled to a certain extent, right? But when you have assets such as a house, such as investments, whether that be property or other investments that you have money in, when you have those assets, number one, they grow. Just your regular income and a regular savings doesn't really grow that much, right? To take over how much interest and taxes and things that you're going to pay on that income and on the money that you spend on a day-to-day basis. So you want to make sure that you have assets, that you have used your funds to acquire, so that at some point you'll be able to build that generational wealth. You'll have the assets that you need to potentially get something else that you may need in the future. If your assets do not already include a home, but you're building on those assets so that you can purchase a home, that's going to help you in the long run. So making sure that you're, separating those thoughts. Like, yes, I have this amount of income, but how many assets do I have? Are my cars paid off? Is my house paid off? How much to pay it off? The things that we acquire with our income are beneficial when they are able to be used as an asset and not a liability. So another difference between rich and wealthy, as we know. So the lifestyle versus the legacy, right? So we see a lot of pictures where the person is glittered and glamored and, all put together, and then it shows under the bottom that they're broke because they spent all their money on the lifestyle on the day-to-day that is going on in their life, or keeping up with the culture, keeping up with whatever that lifestyle looks like for you. But then on the other side, those that are building legacy are less concerned about the type of clothing, the name brand of the clothing, or anything like that. They'd rather take that money and invest somewhere else that will grow and that will help them build legacy for themselves and for their families and their children down the road. So there's a lot of habits, and we've discussed that, in this call already, but the habits that hurt wealth. Okay. So emotional spending. Sometimes, like I said, we say, man, I've been working all these days. I worked all these hours. I deserve to whatever, or I'm not feeling well. I'm tired. I would like, I just want my own little meal just for me, whatever that is. When you're emotional and you spend, you're not always putting that money in a place that can grow, in a place that will become an asset as opposed to a liability. We're constantly in some way spending emotionally. I worked hard, I should be able to do it. And you're absolutely right. But also, you have to look at what is the value of this thing that I'm purchasing right now versus if I don't purchase this in this state, how can I use this same money to acquire generational wealth in the future? Lack of planning. So we've talked about this, that a lot of times we are reactive more so than proactive. So as things come, we're rushing to take care of stuff. Oh, shoot, this happened. I got to do that. Oh, I did. But if you plan where your money is going, you plan how your money is going to grow, and the plan is, at this point, I'm going to do this. What is that next point? And you need to have a plan. And it could be small goals along the way, but you need to make sure you have a solid written plan. And again, because I also, look at insurance to properly protect your living wages prior to any death benefit, I know that it's important to have that planned out. And that goes back to the budget. How much debt do I have? If something happened to me today, how much do I need to cover this debt? This house, the car, whatever. And I mean living, not if you die. If you live right now and something happens to you where you're unable to work or you lose your income, how do you cover those things that you've already accumulated, right? How do you do that? You have to plan. You have to plan with a budget. You have to pay attention to your expenses. And I'm saying these things because I too have to implement these things. This is us going together. This is us learning and growing and applying the things that maybe we're not taught, we're not adequately taught, or that we just didn't understand because the person who may have explained it to us or tried to, they didn't understand. So along the journey with me and Alajoy and Associates, I want to help us uncover new ways to plan, new ways to save, new ways to invest so that we're creating that generational wealth for our families for years to come. And that goes to the next thing, which is living without goals. So if you have no goal, no destination to reach, you're just wandering around. What do you think will happen if you don't have any type of plan, any type of goal? You'll just be living. You'll just be being, right? You'll just be, going along with whatever comes and goes. And in these days and times, too much is coming and we don't have enough to go, right? So we really need to make sure that we have planned out the things as best as we can, because as I've said, God is the best of planners, right? So he is going to plan things, but also you need to be a good steward of your plan for your family. So you have to do the things that are going to benefit your family and your finances and God while you're creating this plan, because as long as that is going together, you'll always be successful. Okay. So I want to ask you guys a question. What's one financial habit you're proud of? And that could be as simple as, I don't hold the money. Somebody else might need to hold the money for you. That might be the financial habit that you have fully become aware that you are not the financial person. That you're not the one that understands or knows how to invest, or you're not the one that best knows how to move money, the best way to make sure that it's covering everything and that everything is taken care of. So, one financial habit that I'm proud of, I'm beginning to understand that less is really more, being appreciative of everything that you have and God blessing you with everything that you have and everything that you need, right? That's important. And a lot of stuff we get, and even a video that that I did an interview earlier, that's one of the things we talked about. Like, you don't need the $1,000 car payment, right? You don't need the $100,000 car, $80,000 car. You don't need that. Do we want nice things and everything? Of course. But when we're talking about building wealth, we're talking about not spending and being in excess. You get what you need to help you get to the next place. And that next place will allow you to move forward if you plan and save and take care of things in a proper manner. And that's what's important. And that's what I really want you guys to take from this. That there is a way that with any amount of money that you have, as long as you have an income, there is a way that you can manage that money. Now, lower incomes, of course, it's going to be more difficult. It may be as simple as $5 a month, right? But if you start now and you create the habits and you put them into place, when you get now that you can put $500 in there a month, then if I do it, it'll add up. If I do it, it'll grow. If I do it, if I continue, this is what could be happening. I will accomplish this goal or that goal based on the plan and the goals that you're already living by. So what's one habit you're trying to improve? And that goes back to what I just said, not buying excess. Because for me, and COVID kind of amped this up, but I always like to have the things I need in my house, so I don't have to be like, oh, I gotta go get paper towels, I gotta go get and so I would have an excess of things. But that, let's say $50 that I spend today on toilet paper or paper towels that may last me a month, I may need next week, or that could be put somewhere else this week and grow and more than that by next month. And I can still buy the same thing that we needed, and we're not in a gap. But that is and was my, area of weakness. And that goes with everything. I mean, socks, underwear, whatever. I just felt like if I had enough, then I don't have to go and buy anything. I have something to wear for every event, all these things. And the reality is, when I scaled back and gave a bunch of stuff away, I still had stuff to wear. I still had extra toilet paper and it lasted. And I waited until it was closer to where, okay, I've got 1 pack or 2 packs left, right? So it's small changes, small things that you see. But part of that is going back to the beginning point, which is writing those things down. Writing those expenses where you spend this extra $20, where you spend this extra $30, where you're paying for delivery fees, right? Because COVID hit us over the head with that. And then we started accepting that these fees were so much. And really, we don't need to do that as much. There's ways to save in there. Miss Felicia said, I deserve it. You know, buying is my weakness. And that's it. Because again, we're like, I worked hard for this. I deserve to buy this, or I deserve to buy that. And while that may be fulfilling in that moment, right? It feels good. The problem is that maybe next week or the week after, you're like, I really could have put that $50 somewhere else. Did I really need that? You know, if you know, and like I said, a lot of times we don't even realize how those little instances of, as she said, impulse and emotional buying, how they add up. Because we think it's just $10 at Starbucks, or, you know, I'm going to buy some shoes. I'm going to spend $100 buying, you know, sandals or whatever it is, you know. And then before you know it, in a year, you spent $2,000. I'm just giving them a number, but you spent more. And if you had not spent that, you would have still been okay. You still didn't need shoes. You didn't need all those extra things. And now this $2,000 that you saved can be invested into something else, or pay off something that's on your debt and eliminate that debt from month to month, right? So that's something that we have to work on as a group. And I want to help with that. I want to be able to help you see the budget, see the numbers, really pay attention. You know, a lot of people don't know how much they spend on groceries because they just buy the groceries. And then when they really think, when you really look at it, you're like, I could have just bought groceries for this week. And then assessed at the end of the week, well, I didn't cook all the meals that I bought for this week. So now I have 2 meals that I could be using for next week. And so that cuts that budget down instead of us spending for a whole week again the next week. And then we can really see, what do we really need on a monthly basis? Like what I'm learning to do, even for myself, is on the beginning of the month, I look over everything that we have, you know, deodorants and soaps and whatever we may need. And I'm like, is this enough for the month? And I'm looking at the things and I'm like, yeah, I don't need any more body wash this month. You know, I've got 4 bottles or whatever the case is, you know, and you don't buy it. And that you would have spent maybe an extra $75 on things that you may or may not need, but honestly, you probably don't, more so than anything. And so again, that $75 would have been money that was sitting there that could be put somewhere else that would help grow money. So the key for today is that financial freedom begins with financial discipline. Discipline. And that is always hard, because you could be gung-ho and motivated right now. I'm going to put $5 a week in this account. And then you forget one week and you're like, well, you know, I'll do it $10 next week. And before you know it, you got to put $100. And that made me more of a strain than if you had just went ahead and put the $5 in there. So it's better to be consistent and disciplined, because that's what's required for us to be successful financially. So again, feel free, if you guys have any questions. My phone number is 678-656-2154. I am April Joy. My email is april.martinez@metrobrokers.com. I look forward to answering any questions that you all may have, and or offering whatever resources I have as well. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will get back with you with whatever information, and or I would love to schedule to sit down and talk to you about what's the next plan for your generational wealth. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.